What's up, everybody? In this episode of Detail Dive, we're going to be talking about paint protection film, what it is, what it isn't, and if it actually benefits you and your vehicle. All right, so paint protection film, Clear Bra. I'm sure you heard of it, maybe you've seen it, and maybe you're even looking to purchase it in the future for your own vehicle. Now, we've been doing this for a while, and something that I found very disappointing is when you research PPF, when you research Clear Bra, even ceramic coatings and things of that nature, there isn't really a lot of quality information out there regarding what PPF actually is. Most of the videos and the blogs that you read are just sales pitches and all the advantages and things of that nature for you and your vehicle. But in today's video, I really wanted to get into the nitty-gritty details, and that's why we created the series of the Detail Dive to give you all the information that you'll ever need when it comes to anything detailing or automotive customization related. So let's jump into paint protection film specifically. Now, the two most popular terms are Clear Bra or paint protection film. Now, those are just industry standard terms to refer to the service itself when you're doing research and when we as a company are trying to sell that service to you. Now, paint protection film is actually made out of TPU. That's a specific elastic polymer resin that is also known as thermoplastic polyurethane. Now, it is in the group of thermoplastic elastometers, whatever that means, right? I'm gonna do my best with these terms for you. And elastometers typically have amazing elasticity, resistance to abrasion, resistance to chemicals, and also environmental damage. And that's why TPU is actually such a popular material. You'll be surprised that a lot of the items around you, you're probably holding TPU right now because phone cases are made out of TPU, such as these two over here. Your coffee cup that you get from your popular coffee shop is TPU. It was just Valentine's Day recently, and also me and my fiance's 2-year anniversary. Love you, babe. And she got me this beautiful rose over here that's kind of halfway dead. It's been some time now. But the cover for this rose is made out of a specific form of TPU. So TPU is everywhere, right? It's one of the most popular elastometers utilized in many products in many different types of industries, okay? Now, there are a few of the most popular TPUs, such as polyester, polyether, polycarbonate, and most importantly in our application, polyurethane, which is the specific TPU that most paint protection films on the market are created out of. So one really cool thing about TPU material is it can be customized for different types of things, right? So there are thousands of different types of TPUs on the market that companies can buy from the manufacturer and utilize, like I said, in making a phone case or making paint protection film. Now, the awesome thing about it is when they get that TPU, the actual resin of the TPU in its raw form, you can customize it even further, meaning you can add colors and dyes to it to make colored and textured films like this Damascus steel accent that we have on the Corvette C8 behind us. Or you can add things as ceramic self-healing top coats, for example, the clear film on this Corvette C8 behind us, which has a full body PPF application that we did here at 48 Detailing. So there's different types of customizations after they buy, a manufacturer buys the raw resin of that material from another manufacturer to make more advantages to the type of product or material that they are creating themselves. And of course, just like any other material on planet Earth, any other industry, there are grading scales when it comes to TPU as well. For example, you know, like diamonds have different grades. You have C cuts, you have different grades of clarity and things like that. Gold, for example, you got 21 karat, 14 karat, 24 karat pure gold. And TPU is no different. There are different grades to TPU, right? One of the most important grading scales, and this is going to be very important later when we conversate throughout the video, is the Shore scale. Now, the Shore scale is going to grade the hardness, the softness, and the elasticity of TPU, right? For example, you have the A grade scale of the Shore scale, and then you have the D grade. Something like a rubber band is a 20A as an alpha. It's very flexible, maneuverable. You pull it and it snaps back to its original self. Then you have something like the rubber compound on your tires for your vehicle, or behind me on this Corvette. That's going to have a 60A grading on the Shore scale. And then you have something like a golf ball, your traditional golf ball, which typically has a 50D as in Delta. So there's different types of softness, flexibility, and also hardness of TPU depending on what type of item or TPU that you're talking about. Now, one scale that I was trying to find and I wasn't able to was quality scale, right? We always hear a lot of shops saying, well, that film is low quality and our film is high quality. We hear it all the time. You know, you look at yellow paint protection film, they're like, well, they use really bad, low quality materials in that film. In reality, when it comes to the industry of TPU, there is no real quality scale in a way, because it's not good, medium, or bad, or high quality, low quality. There's just different types of TPUs for different types of applications and industries. That's all it is. For example, the TPU in this phone case is not bad. It's just a specific type of TPU that has specific types of advantages to produce a phone case. And the same thing goes for the polyurethane paint protection film, or TPU, that is utilized in paint protection film. So with that in mind, there are hybrids of different types of TPUs. For example, PPF manufacturers can create hybrids of different types of TPUs to give them different types of results when it comes to UV resistance, flexibility for the quality of and ease of use of application of the material, and that all is depending on manufacturer to manufacturer. That's going to get you the results that you're looking for, us as a detail shop the results that we're looking for. So now that we know what paint protection film is made out of, let's talk about the advantages, and we always have to be honest with ourselves, the disadvantages of the actual TPU material itself. So, advantages. TPU, especially polyurethane, has a very high abrasion and wear resistance. So what does that mean? It's very scratch resilient, right? It doesn't scratch very easy. It doesn't abrade very easily. So it's very difficult to get that material sanded down to nothing in a way, right? If you haven't ever experienced trying to sand down on PPF, it just clogs up that sandpaper and you don't go anywhere when it comes to sand down, right? So that's what's really nice about TPU, the abrasion resistance of the material. It has a high radiation resistance as well from UV rays and things like that. Now, we'll get into a little bit when it comes to the yellowing of TPU in a second. High elasticity, it can stretch itself over 800%, which is amazing when it comes to puncture resistance and things of that nature. And the high tensile strength as well, which plays a part in that. Depending on the polyurethane and TPU quality and things of that nature, it can go anywhere from 5,000 PSI all the way up to 150,000 PSI without snapping or breaking, which is amazing when you think about it. Also, the advantages of TPU is customizable. It can be colored. For example, over here, we have colored paint protection film. Essentially, this is a layer of TPU paint protection film that is actually painted with automotive paint. So when you look at this film, unlike vinyl, it looks exactly like paint, right? You can't really tell the difference between an area with colored paint protection film and a painted surface unless you are changing the color of the vehicle. For example, we have a BMW Z4 behind the Corvette that we're doing a color change in this midnight blue paint protection film, and it looks exactly like paint. That's the really cool thing about it, because it is painted TPU, and then they put the ceramic self-healing top coat on top of it, right? So that's really, really cool, and so much better than your traditional cast vinyl or PVC vinyl, which has all that nasty texture, and it just doesn't look good, you know? You might be able to change the color of your car, but you see the texture, the orange peel, all the little things here and there on it, it just doesn't look as pretty as car paint or this painted paint protection film. So now that we went over the advantages, let's go over the disadvantages of the TPU material and how that affects paint protection film, right? Disadvantage number one, it is a super expensive material to manufacture for the application of paint protection film. I've been to the actual manufacturing facility of paint protection film and TPU, and let me tell you right here, right now, that place is on lockdown. You can't have a speck of dust or dirt floating through the air. They have complete air filtration systems. When you're walking into the actual manufacturing plant, you are suited up from top to bottom. You can't have skin, you can't have hair being exposed, and that's why it results to very expensive material and also a premium service, because if we get a piece of defective film and we put it on your vehicle, now it's our problem, your problem, and also the manufacturer's problem to figure out. And they have to make sure they completely avoid that at all costs. Not to say that it does happen, but that is why film is so expensive. The manufacturing process and the cost of the specific resin for polyurethane TPU is a more expensive resin compared to a resin utilized for a material such as this. Another disadvantage is the variety. And what do I mean by that? There are so many material options when it comes to this industry that it becomes confusing, right? For us as a consumer, because we're customers to purchasing the film as well, of course, and we sell that as a service to you, the end consumer, right? So it took us years to figure out what was the right fit for us, our climate, and our customers when it comes to material, when it comes to application process, because that's very important as well to get a quality installation, and also variety, right? So we have a mix of different manufacturers and also direct to manufacturer contracts that we have when it comes to our specific materials that we use on vehicles. So there's so much variety, it just gets a little confusing for us starting a company and building and progressing our company, and you as a customer to purchase the service itself. But that's why we're here to simplify that process for you. All right, and the last disadvantage, and one of the most common questions that we get, does it yellow, does it crack? All that stuff, right? So TPU naturally, clear TPU specifically, does yellow over a period of time. That's just the natural thing that happens to TPU. Now, like I stated before, there are different types of TPU. Remember when I spoke to you about how thin the material is, the elasticity, the hardness of the material, and also the additive chemical compounds that they put into the film itself have an effect on how long it takes for that TPU to yellow. For example, if you have a thinner TPU, it's going to yellow faster. If you have a more elastic TPU, it's going to yellow faster. But if you have a harder TPU material, it's not going to yellow as fast. Now, of course, when the manufacturers are creating these films, they do generalized testing. But for me personally, I like real world examples. You know, so when we notice film yellowing quickly because of a chemical reaction or because it's been sitting outside in the sun or something of the sorts, we take note of that. We take note of it fast and see, is there something that the customer did? Is it something that we did? Is it something that we can prevent, right? But generally speaking, your automotive grade polyurethane TPU has anywhere between a 5 to a 10-year longevity when it comes to anti-yellowing and things of that nature. So now that we went over the advantages and disadvantages in detail of the specific material TPU, let's go over how that summarizes into paint protection services advantages and disadvantages. So the advantage of getting PPF on your vehicle, you avoid getting chips, you avoid getting scratches, you have the self-healing ability of the film as well. It looks exactly like paint. For example, the Volkswagen Golf over here next to the Corvette has a full front plus our 5-year ceramic coating application, and you cannot tell visually the difference between the areas that have film and the areas that don't have film. Another great advantage is if you do get damage that's irreversible from that self-healing ability, you just remove the film and you have fresh paint underneath that you can do whatever you want to. Now, the disadvantages of paint protection film, of course, because the material is expensive to produce, because it's expensive to purchase for us as a detail shop, a customization shop, it's going to be an expensive service to perform. So generally speaking, you want to make sure you keep budget in mind on how much that you want to spend, but also keep in mind that if you are looking for like a partial application or not full coverage, the rest of your painted surfaces are exposed, and it's much more expensive to get a repaint than it is to replace or PPF a panel. And if you do get a repaint, that paint will never be factory again. And you have to let your next owner of the vehicle know that, hey, that panel has been repainted and it's going to devalue your vehicle as well. Another disadvantage to paint protection film, it's actually in the name. It's paint protection film, not paint perfection film. That's something that we always try to explain to our customers. The film is there to protect your vehicle, not to necessarily make it look perfect. If you're looking for pure aesthetics, the route that you want to take is correction and ceramic coatings, and we could talk about that in another detailed dive episode. But paint protection film is there to protect your car. Now, of course, we try to make that application look as perfect and seamless as possible, but there are limitations when it comes to specific types of vehicles and also the film itself because of how thick it is, because it's water applied. Things of that nature will have an effect on the application itself. So, for example, the film on the Corvette, the film on the Volkswagen is virtually invisible. But if you look very, very closely, like get down on your knees and look at specific edges and corners and seam lines, you will notice that the film is there. Because we can't tuck every single edge, we can't wrap every single edge, and we can't do every single bumper in one piece because the film is very thick and the technology just doesn't allow us to as technicians. With that in mind, again, we do our best to make sure it looks amazing, but that is one limitation to paint protection film applications when it comes to your vehicle. And the last disadvantage for paint protection film, it does have a life cycle. You can't just keep the film on there for 15 or 20 years. I mean, you see it all the time when you're here in Arizona, a much older vehicle, let's say, for example, like a 2003 Honda Civic that has that old school partial application. It's all cracked, it's yellow, things of that nature. It's almost impossible to remove the film at that point. It does have a lifespan. When you get to that 10-year mark, that 11, 12-year mark, it is time to remove that film, reapply new film, or just leave it be, and you'll have fresh paint underneath. That's the amazing thing about it. But you can't just apply film and keep it on a car for 15 or 20 years. Naturally, that TPU material is going to start to yellow. It is going to start to dry out. But during that 10 years, you're pretty much all set to go of having a beautiful looking film application. You're probably like at this point, Zaya, we get it. We got the science behind it. We get what it's made out of, all that good stuff. Now, what do I need to know to make an informed, educated decision before I purchase paint protection film services for my vehicle? Let's jump straight into it, guys. Let's talk about one of the most important things, the thickness of the material, right? So, automotive paint protection film ranges anywhere between 6 mils all the way up to 10 mils thick. Now, the sweet spot, and the reason why I say the sweet spot and why it matters is because the thicker the film is, the less gloss and shine you're going to get and a little bit more texture, right? So there is sacrifices based upon the thinness and thickness of film. The sweet spot for paint protection film is that 8 mils thick, right? And that is one of the most popular thicknesses on the market. Now, please keep in mind, the thicker you go, the more resistance towards chips you're going to get. 10 mils typically are used for more so commercial vehicles, track purposes, for track cars that need that resistance towards chips and things of that nature because they're blasting down the racetrack at 150 miles per hour, things of that nature. But you're not going to get as much gloss and shine out of that film as you would with an 8 mil film. A 6 mil film, because it's thinner, it's going to have a little bit less texture to it, so it gives you a bit more aesthetics, right? It's going to yellow faster. It's not going to have the chip resistance that you need. We find that for daily drivers, weekend queens like this one over here, 8 mils is a perfect balance between aesthetically glossy, little to no texture, and also anti-yellowing resistance and chip resistance as well. Now, also please keep in mind, there are a lot of companies out there that play with numbers and terminology and things like that. So let me give you an example. A lot of manufacturers are going to include the backing of the film that you remove to expose the adhesive. So let me give you an example. I got a piece of film right over here. I'm going to remove the actual film, which is going to be in my right hand over here. And then the backing is going to be in my left. This backing does nothing for your vehicle. It's just what the film is transported on to you to be able to remove and cover that adhesive from collecting contamination and things like that. They're including the thickness of the backing with the thickness of their film. So in reality, they have a 6 mil or 6.5 mil film that's getting put on your car, and they're adding the 1.5 or 2 mil thickness to get you to that quote unquote 8 mil thickness. Another really important thing for you to at least ask, and not necessarily need to know, but it's something that we as installers and companies need to know, is the quality and ease of use of the adhesive on the film, right? So all paint protection film does have a light adhesive on the back of the TPU to help that film semi-permanently bond to the vehicle's paint. And I say semi because film is meant to be applied and removed in the future, right? So if you have crappy adhesive, it's going to make the installation difficult, and the installation is difficult, you won't have a quality installation. You need the film to be malleable, and you need that adhesive to be forgiving. And what I mean by that, bad adhesive typically causes distortion underneath the film during application, and poor quality adhesive can also yellow. That's something really interesting as well. Your adhesive can actually yellow, so even if your TPU didn't yellow, it causes a yellowing effect because the adhesive underneath starts to yellow. Now, the typical thickness for adhesive is about 0.5 mils, which is the sweet spot for adhesive thickness, which gives you a quality looking film, some good tack when we're actually installing the film to make sure you don't have fingers and things like that lifting on you, and to make that installation generally easy for the installer. And when I say easy, easy for a skilled installer that's been doing it for years. You get what I'm saying? Paint protection film, I always say this to everybody that we hire here at the shop, if they're a newbie, if they have experience, paint protection film is easy to put on a car. I could take this piece of film right now, just like this, toss it on the car, and it's on the car, right? But it looks like crap. You get what I'm saying? Film is easy to put on a car, but to put it on a car correctly, to get the results that we get that last 10, 15, 20% of detail that we're chasing after is difficult. You get what I'm saying? So whatever we can do, whatever the manufacturer can do to keep that film looking amazing, but also make it easier to install for a professional installer, is of benefit to you as the customer of the service. The next thing you want to look out for regarding the film is the top coat of the film. Now, every manufacturer has their own specific blend of ceramic and self-healing top coats that have different durabilities, different abilities to heal deeper or lighter scratches and pitting and things like that. So every film is different. Some top coats we've seen last years, and some other top coats we've seen last just a few months. So the quality of top coat is different based off of the experience of the manufacturer in developing ceramic self-healing top coats, right? So with that in mind, that's something you want to talk to the company you're working with about. And also ask them, does it have a self-healing ceramic top coat, right? Because if it doesn't, that's not something that you want on your vehicle, because PPF without self-healing ceramic top coats are typically older technology styles of TPU paint protection film, and it's a big benefit to have film that self-heals the minor scratches and swirls that happen over time, because it keeps that film looking brand new for you. The next and one of the most important things out of everything I'm talking about, right, has nothing to do with the film. Nothing to do with the film. That is the preparation of your vehicle before the application. If that vehicle is not prepped correctly, I don't care how good the film is, I don't care how many years of experience the installer has, that film application is going to turn out bad. And what I mean by that, if you have dirt and grime in the edges, if you have contamination embedded in your paint that hasn't been removed, all that stuff is going to have an effect on the aesthetics of the film and also the longevity of the film as well. That's why here at 48 Detailing, we have systems and procedures, lists and checklists that are checked off not only by our technicians but also the managers that are in place here at 48 Detailing to make sure that a vehicle is prepped up to the final inspection that we perform on the vehicle. And that prep is going to include the hand wash. It's going to include the iron fallout remover. It's going to include the clay bar treatment. It's going to include the correction that's needed to remove deeper defects. It's going to include the chip repair. We do all of that prior to doing the paint protection film application. Basically, everything that's necessary to have a quality install needs to be performed, and that's what we do here at 48 Detailing. Generally speaking, from start to finish, just the decontamination, the cleaning process, that prep process can take anywhere between 2 to 3 hours, depending on the areas of coverage and also how much, what type of vehicle that we're installing on, right? If the vehicle needs a correction process, it could take upwards of a day to 2 days to complete, right? So that's something to keep in mind. Now, the next extremely important factor that is important to paint protection film application has nothing to do with the film, has nothing to do with us. It actually has everything to do with your vehicle. Yes, your vehicle matters when it comes to paint protection film applications because every vehicle is different. Now, the C8 behind me, for example, we've done hundreds of these when it comes to PPF, right? We know all the ins and outs, and because of that, we know that the area where the fender meets the bumper over here, this line over here, we cannot wrap because if we do, that film will lift and it will collect contamination. It is so tight in that area that in fact the early generation of Corvette C8s, paint starts chipping off because as the vehicle is driving, those panels vibrate and shift between each other and start rubbing paint off. So that is an area that we specify to the customer we cannot wrap. Complexity of bumpers is also something to take in consideration. If you have a very complex bumper, sometimes there's multiple pieces of PPF that we have to align and what we call bud together to make sure we get as much coverage as we can without that film popping or lifting. Deep valleys in areas, you'll notice a seam or a cut so that valley does not pop and lift in the future. All these things you have to take in consideration for your vehicle when it comes to how the PPF will be installed on the vehicle. Furthermore, while we're on the subject matter of the actual car that we need to work on, your paint quality is a factor as well. If you have heavy orange peel in the paint, putting paint protection film on it does not mean it will remove the orange peel, okay? It keeps how the paint looks like underneath. You get what I'm saying? For example, if you have contamination underneath your paint, we won't be able to remove that. When cars are being painted, even though the manufacturer does its best to have a quality paint job, there is contamination that at times floats into that painting process. And I can't tell you whether that contamination is underneath the clear coat, it's underneath the base coat, or if it's underneath the primer. Do you get what I'm saying? So with that in mind, there are limitations to what we can do when it comes to prepping that car to get you the best overall result. If you have contamination underneath your paint, there's not really much that we can do about it. If you have crazy texture underneath your paint, there's not really much that we can do about it, right? Now, things that we can fix, things that we can address are things like swirls, light to medium scratches, and things of that nature before we put the film on, but we can't fix a panel if it has contamination underneath it or if the quality of paint is poor. For example, Tesla's paint quality is on the poorer side. Hyundai and Kia on the poorer side. You have specific types of textures that kind of look funky on those paint jobs straight out of the factory. Not too much that we can do about that, right? So just keep that in mind as well. Your quality of paint on your vehicle will play a factor on the quality of installation too.
Now, the last subject I want to talk to you all about, I want to give you guys some great visuals, and it is, of course, just like many others, a very important subject to talk about, and that is quality of install and installer. Now, this Corvette C8 that you're seeing right here is a 2023, had a full front and little rockers installed to it, and as you can see, this installation is... you know exactly what it is. We have lifted film everywhere, jagged cuts, jagged edges, unlined patterns, unwrapped edges. I mean, it has everything that can be wrong with paint protection film on it. And I wanted to show you guys this and compare and contrast to our 2022 Corvette C8 in a few moments, but this is a perfect example. Even if you have the best film, the best prep, if you do not know how to install film or the installer you're going to doesn't have the proper experience on the vehicle, you can get results like that. And here is a perfect example of paint protection film done right on our own 2022 Corvette C8, which is our show car. We take this out on shows and meets just to exemplify our work and give our customers and future customers a perfect example of what their vehicle will receive after an installation here at 48 Detailing. It has our full body paint protection film application covering all your painted surfaces and providing you the ultimate protection for your vehicle. And then it also has all of our Damascus steel accents as well, which is part of our fashion line of films. So you can change the color, texture of the surfaces on your vehicle, but still have that amazing 10-year warranty and chip and scratch resistance as well. You can see all the edges, the wrapped edges, the clarity of the film, no lifting, no peeling, nothing like that. And in fact, our Corvette C8 has more miles on it, and of course is a year older than the last Corvette C8 that you saw. So it just goes to show of the quality of installation, because you don't want your installation just to look good the first week, 2 weeks, 3 months. You want to make sure it looks good throughout the ownership of your vehicle. Now, do also keep in mind, every paint protection film application does require a cure time, anywhere between 7 and 12 days, depending on the temperature and climate that you're in. During that cure time, you might experience some slight bubbles here and there. You might even experience just a slight lift here and there, or a finger, and that's completely normal because we apply this film at a certain temperature, and it is also water applied. So as that film contracts and expands in the sun and cools and heats up, small things might happen here and there during that cure time. That's why I always recommend, if you do have any issues, come in for a follow-up for us to go ahead and address it. Now with that, we have reached the end of the video. I really hope you guys enjoyed and learned something new. I did my absolute best to explain what PPF is, what it isn't, what it does, and the results that we are able to achieve. And if you are interested in getting the service for your vehicle, make sure to give us a call. We'd be more than happy to help and talk more over the phone, specifically about your vehicle and the things that you are looking for. And that is the best thing to do to make sure that we build and develop the best package for you and give you our recommendations as well. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. Have a great one and enjoy the rest of your day.